of 8 rings or D rings from 8 parachutes proved that they couldn't have jumped. I mean, to other people, it doesn't prove that at all, right? I mean, am I missing something there?
No, you're not, because people say they never went up with just the minimum number. They always had extras just for, just in case.
Although you don't know. I mean, that that they might not have had that a full thing either. I don't know. I mean, they might have only had 10 in there. I don't know.
Yeah, well, but even if it was only 10
or 8,
that means they're still short
and they
too.
They could have just had the 8.
Okay,
but yeah.
But so they get to the site. They find these D rings to prove that there was 8 parachutes on board the plane when it went down. There's some other weird bits of hankiness here, and that would be that one of the investigators, when he walked onto the site, he said he literally looked down and he found a dog tag sitting on the ground, exposed to the elements, right in front of him, and that belonged to Joe Matajov. The thing is that it was in pristine condition. I mean, it shouldn't have been. It had been there for 20 years. It should have suffered some kind of ill effects of the weather.
I don't know. I guess there's some, for me, he could be saying, and it was in pretty dang good condition for...
Have you seen the photo of it?
No.
Okay.
Was it actually pristine?
Yeah, it was in great condition.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen dog tags that guys wore for years, after combat missions.
Yeah.
Guys do that. They just always wear the dog tags.
Yeah.
And they were dirty and scarred and beat up, and they looked worse than the ones I saw in this photo.
Well, it didn't see very much combat.
Maybe somebody was playing a practical joke on these guys.
Well, that's actually a really good point, because it is not an unknown thing for people to see or figure out that families of men who are MIA are coming to the area and fabricate dog tags to sell to them. So that's not an uncommon thing. But the other not so on the level bit here is supposedly these guys were they were flying a sanitized mission, meaning that they shouldn't have had their dog tags on, and they shouldn't have had any kind of recognizable insignias on their flight suits.
I have a question.
Yeah.
That's why I'm raising my hand.
Yeah.
Then how did they identify the 4 pilots? How did they know that was who they were?
Probably their positions in the plane.
I believe it was the positions in the plane.
Okay.
I'm believing it.
But so that is the way they identified them?
Based on their stations, yes.
So for all we know, the rear endmen could have been taking those positions.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Realistically,
just to be a total
They slam into the ground, and the 4 in the front are ejected right out the glass windshields in the front, and the other 4 just
are ejected right into the seat.
I like that theory. That's a good
but
one.
I just mean, for all we know, the people who bailed out were the pilots. Right? I mean,
unlikely.
if I agree. I'm just
she's
trying
playing
to drive
devil's
home
advocate,
the point.
and I get it.
Yeah.
And yes.
Okay.
I can just see, they get ahead. They say, "Hey, you guys, come forward and take the controls. We've all got to go to the bathroom. We'll be right back."
Bathroom's out this door. Sorry.
This isn't the bathroom. Whoa! But it's weird that if they were supposed to be flying a sanitized mission, that this dog tag was there.
Agreed.
Oh yeah.
So that's weird. The other thing that's weird is that the bone fragments that were all recovered, they couldn't really identify them to anyone because, I kid you not, they were literally fragments. They couldn't even prove that they were human.
You would kind of expect that.
You would, after 20 years and in that situation.
Yeah.
But they said that they couldn't, they didn't, no, it's not that they said they couldn't. They said they didn't want to run DNA analysis at the time. This is 93, so of course technology has made leaps and bounds since then. But they didn't run DNA on them, so they couldn't confirm who or what it was. The other weird thing is that I mentioned that they found a tooth or a partial molar on site. Well, that molar, they matched it up to Peter Cressman. Here's the odd thing is that when the U.S. Air Force came to Peter Cressman's family and said, "Hey, this is Peter's molar, and we have these X-rays of his teeth to prove it," they showed them X-rays of a full set of teeth on the top and a full set of teeth on the bottom. The problem is Peter Cressman didn't have all of his teeth. He was missing teeth. He had to wear a partial. So, whose X-ray is that? that they used to match the tooth to.
Are they sure that? Well, it could have been a mistake or a fraud, or are they sure it wasn't just an earlier X-ray before he got his partial?
I believe that before he went in to service, he already had that.
But I mean,
And if the partial was in his mouth when they X-rayed him, it would be very obvious.
oh, okay,
Because
so
the partial
X-ray-
has metal.
the X-ray was not from previously.
Previous.
They didn't like contact family dentist back home and get
I,
X-rays from them.
everything that I have read says that was not the case. That it was the military had those X-rays. It was their X-rays he took in the military. But this is so. Here's the thing, though, and this is I know this infuriates the families, but the all of the armed forces. Okay, I'm not just going to point at the Air Force here, but all of the armed forces over the years have seriously dropped the ball when it came to identifying recovered remains of soldiers killed in action. There are times where they have sent parts to a family and then realized that, wait, they sent, I'm just going to make up names here, okay?
we're screwed up.
They sent
Yeah.
Bob's remains in place of Don's remains. But Don's remains are actually in Tim's grave. And they don't actually know where Don or the first guy's remains are, but the third guy's grave is actually filled with somebody else, and it's this weird, and there's no easy way to fix it, because what do?
Well,
You go
it's
to the
amazing.
family and say, we screwed up, we need to exhume your loved one, and you have found closure, and now, sorry, we got to take it away because we were wrong.
No, you don't.
You don't do that.
I would think that they would just, like there's been cases like that. I would just quietly move the bones and not tell the family myself. If I were in the military. But it does go to show you a couple of things. Number one, they do screw up a lot. But on the other hand, in circumstances like that, I could see where you could do that. But they also still seem to actually still be working on this. I mean, they actually are devoting a lot of resources to trying to straighten everything out, identify every body to the best that they can.
They
seem to be
are trying now.
But they're screwing up. I
Yeah,
won't
well, and I
deny
was going to
that.
say, if you listen to the families, then they say no, they're not trying, and they're trying to cover it all up. I mean, this is all a matter of perspective, and
Yes.
I get that, because if you these families came into this situation expecting things to be one way and to be given all of the information, and they feel like they've been jerked around for decades, that's bound to build up a lot of resentment.
Yeah.
So you can see where all these families get together. I mean, I read an article somewhere and somebody said, when you read one of these, you think, well, the family is crazy and nothing is going on. And then when you talk to 5 or 10 families and they all tell you the same story, you start to wonder, what actually is going on? Is there some kind of something in the background, some plan that we don't know about, and it's a game that somebody else is playing and we just don't know the rules to? I mean, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Well, I think there was a little bit of irresponsibility on the parts of some people, though. Like, a lot of people really kept this story alive and kept the families excited and interested in the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
When, in my opinion, there's not a single shred of evidence that they survived the plane crash.
I would agree with that.
There's not one shred of evidence.
I
not a
wouldn't.
single one.
I would
Nothing.
say that the missing jump door is, to me, a shred of evidence.
Nah, it's not.
To me, it is. But
It's
It's
not. I'll
missing
tell you what.
wings. What?
No, here's
the wings are nearby.
here's the real reason the door was probably gone is that they're
I
actually.
mean, it's very possible that it blew out in mid-flight when they were hit. I get that, Joe.
No, actually, the jump door, the parador, the paratroop door, whatever they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, in Southeast Asia, on those planes, the crews removed those all the time. They flew without them all the time because it was so hot there. That was one way to keep it cool in the plane.
But these guys are flying at night.
They're flying
so
at night
that's
in
not
February.
an issue.
But the other thing about these planes, well, it may or may not be an issue. I mean, it may well be that particular bird, they pulled that door off months before, or even a year or two before, and nobody even knew where the damn door was anymore, so they couldn't even put it back. They typically flew without those doors in place.
See, and
At all.
I've read a lot of stuff from airmen who said that the doors were there, but they always left them unlocked
Yeah.
so they could get out faster.
Yeah, but
Which-
but
it's-
to me, there's absolutely no reason to put a lot of any weight whatsoever on that door being missing. The search and rescue team reported that the parachutes were gone. Well, of course,
But they couldn't report those were gone because they didn't go into the plane.
No. You can see into the plane by looking through the door because the bin that holds the parachute is right across from the door in the fuselage of the plane.
Which door?
And every account that I have read, the rear door, the entry-exit door, the main entry-exit door, they're right across.
The jump door?
Yeah, the jump door.
Okay.
They're right across from that. Every account that I have read of this, the search and rescue team reported that the door was missing. They also reported that parachutes were missing. But the thing about it is, and so that's considered to be a piece of evidence to support the idea that they jumped out of the plane.
See, and nothing that I've really seen has ever given any good indication that they were in that portion of the plane to be able to identify that. My point is, they said they didn't go into the rear of the plane, so therefore, it's just not 100% for certain, which is why I'm not willing to just say no. They didn't see him, but they didn't, crawl through the body of the plane. That's where I'm getting at here, and that's why I'm not completely opposed to it.
Yeah, no, and so, but my understanding was, or at least the way it's been written, and the search and rescue team reported that the parachutes were missing. They were gone.
There is some reporting that says that, but there's also reporting that said, that's what I said earlier.
Yeah.
Is that there's also, when you read it, there's stuff that says that they never went back there. So that's why I don't completely believe it. We see this all the time where stories are inflated and sentences and actions are added to it.
Oh yeah, for sure. But this is used, at least by some people in this little conspiracy, as theory, as evidence. The parachutes were missing. They were reported as being missing. Whether they actually were or not is beside the point. I mean, that's what these people are all saying. They're saying the parachutes were gone, therefore they must have jumped. Right. Point is, of course the parachutes were gone. They were just in a bin. I mean, they just fell out, and so of course they were not. So
they could have fallen out. They could have been incinerated in the fire. I'm not saying that the parachutes couldn't come out. I'm just, again, as
I know you're not.
I just don't feel like anybody laid eyes on it.
Can I propose a new theory?
Sure.
It's not some vast conspiracy. It's just general incompetence.
Could have been that.
And that, at the mistakes and laziness of their forefathers.
It could be that.
Yeah. Well, and they did try to do right by these men when they went back and they investigated the crash site. They did bring all of those remains back. They did put them into a shared gravesite at Arlington National Cemetery. They did hold a service for them. So they are trying to do what they can to recognize and honor them.
And not for nothing, because I know if it were my family, I would be pissed and need to know more. But when it comes down to it, how many people are in our military right now?
Well,
or even then? I mean,
a lot.
Hundreds of thousands.
A couple of million back in those days.
So, and we're talking about 4 men. Right?
And they've done a lot. They've done a lot.
I totally understand, from the family perspective. I don't want to say, we shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's it's 4 people who probably died, because you've seen the pictures. They probably died. And, at some point, I'm sure the military just kind of was we have so many other things going on. We cannot, we can't have resources going into this. We've got to go. We just have to walk away from it. And then 20 years later, they're trying to make good.
Well, yeah, and this is 20 years on since that happened.
Yeah, but that would be my
and we've been in a whole bunch of other conflicts, so they've got a whole other slew of hot potatoes on their hands to try and deal with.
They're still looking at stuff like that. But what's really, it is sad though that I've read these stories of these families of these people that have been trying for years. I mean, they still feel that their loved ones are probably missing. And I look at the story, and it seems to be glaringly obvious that there's no way in hell that they actually didn't die in that plane crash. And it's sad that these people have spent all this time and kind of, let their lives be consumed by this.
And then that's the difference, is you don't have the emotional attachment, nor do I. And so sometimes that makes it easy to make a quick decision, and who knows?
These people have possibly been a little bit misled by, some, I don't know, I'm not going to say
some parties.
Some parties, they've been a little bit misled. So it's kind of sad. But yeah, I think those guys all died. There's no doubt about it.
Let's go ahead and wrap this up.
Well, no. Let's go on.
No, I think
it's way too hot to keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, fine.
All right. Well, if you want to read some of the links about this particular episode or any episode, you can find that on our website, which is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. On there, of course, you can listen to any past episode as well as download them. There's also links for merchandise as well as our past episode list. There's an entire page that's got them all in a searchable format for you there. For those of you who are downloading somewhere else, which most of you are, you're downloading or streaming. If you're downloading and you're doing that from something like iTunes and you're able to leave a comment and a rating, please do. We appreciate that because that allows other people to find the show. If you're streaming through like Google Play or Stitcher or what other platform it might be, if that platform allows you to do comments and ratings, please do so. We appreciate that. We're on social media, so we are on Twitter. We are Thinking Sideways without the G in the middle. We are on we've got a subreddit.
Yep.
Let's say we're on subreddit, but we have a subreddit. And then, of course, we have the Facebook page and the Facebook group. So like the page. Yep, join the group. It's always pretty busy, always good conversations taking place. And if you, last but not least, if you have comments or questions or story suggestions, all of that stuff, you can always go ahead and email that to us at thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. We respond to everything. It might take us a while because the inbox appears to be constantly full these days, but we do get back, so please be patient with us. That having been said, you guys got anything else?
No.
No.
All right.
Well, mystery solved again.
All right. Well, we will wrap this one up, and we will talk to everybody next week.
All right. Toodaloo.
SkyTrain!
Good point.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Well, hi there, and welcome to Thinking Sideways. I'm Steve.
I'm Joe.
Oh, I'm Devin.
Did you forget what we're doing again?
I guess I always forget. It's everybody does it differently. Joe's always like, I'm joined as always by blah, 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 blah. And then when I'm doing it, I don't have to think about it at all. So.
Well, you guys shamed me out of doing on my left, on my right, because then you always made fun of me. So I stopped doing that.
Sorry.
But anyway,
Those people don't care.
This is Thinking Sideways, the podcast. And this week we're going to talk about a story that probably a lot of people haven't heard about, which is the battle over Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Ooh,
Los Angeles.
You're talking about the movie, right?
Have you seen that movie?
I have
No,
not.
I've seen the previews.
No.
It looks action-packed. But I'm
Well,
sure it's
anybody
bad.
who's seen the movie will probably agree with me. As a feature-length film, it was garbage. It was really bad. But the great thing about that movie is if you've seen it, you actually know about the story that we're going to talk about today. Because in that movie, at the beginning, they put up some fake newspaper clippings or headlines that talk about the Battle of Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
They do. I don't know if this is intentional or accidental, but they sort of got the year and the date wrong. But they talk about the event.
Yeah. Well, so the event was a precursor, like a scouting mission.
According to the movie, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's where they're going.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's why whenever I see anything in the sky and I don't know what it is, I get up my 50 cal and start blazing away at it. Because I know they're a scouting mission.
Obviously.
Well, let's move to the story.
Okay.
All right. If anybody who knows their World War II history will remember that the attack on Pearl Harbor happened on the 7th of December, 1941. And immediately after that, the United States jumped into World War II. And the population was all behind it. Everybody was gung-ho. But there were also a lot of fears that the Axis would attack. I believe it was mostly the Japanese people were worried about were going to attack our native soil.
Well,
And
they're,
they actually
you know.
they actually did. They sent those balloon bombs over.
There were balloon bombs, and there were a lot of scares. And like the balloon bombs, there were a couple of things that did actually happen.
Yeah, most
Which-
of them. Yeah, didn't cause any damage at all.
Yeah, and actually one of those attacks is the precursor to the Battle of Los Angeles, or over Los Angeles. Depending on where you read, it's said in a number of different ways. But that having been said, on the 23rd of February 1942, a Japanese submarine surfaced outside of Galena, California, which is on the coast, and it fired 15 shells at an oil refinery. Thankfully, their aim is really bad, so they didn't make any serious damage to anything.
So it's a lot like the movies, actually.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Kinda. But they did scare the crap out of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then they descended and disappeared. Nobody knew where they were. The U.S. Naval Intelligence Service put out a warning, and remember, this first attack was on the 23rd. Mm-hmm. They put out a warning that said that on the 24th, there was likely to be another Japanese attack on the coast of California, presumably in Los Angeles.
So they were like at the red level of the terror alert?
Yeah, they blacked out. I think they had a citywide blackout, or you were supposed to keep your lights, you draw the curtains so you keep it dark.
Yeah, you drive with hooded headlights and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we have better targeting technology these days, because we don't need to black out, because it wouldn't do us any good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So we don't need to go through all that deep.
No, we don't have to go through all of that.
It must have been a great time for stargazing.
Probably was.
Yeah.
No, what is it? Light pollution, right?
No light pollution.
Yeah, no light pollution. That would have been kind of nice.
That'd be kind of sweet.
Yeah. Well, this warning goes into effect, and it went into effect at 7:18 p.m.
Okay.
And it was turned off or went out of effect at 10:23 p.m. because nothing had happened. There was nothing going on, so the Naval Intelligence said, well, nope, everything's fine. Sorry
they
about
were like,
that.
well, if it was going to happen, it would have happened already.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that they could be running a little late.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. They had a
Okay.
3-hour window and they didn't arrive, so their reservation is canceled.
3 hours
okay.
and 5 minutes. Yeah. But, yeah.
It's the extra 5 minutes that really does it.
That's
Yeah.
kind of mystifying in and of itself. It's like, really?
Yeah.
If they're out there, they can pretty much pop up and shoot at us anytime they feel like it.
Yeah. Usually that's kind of what happens. Well, sometime after midnight, so now we're at the 25th of February, unidentified objects or a object, we're not really sure which, was picked up about 100 miles off of the California coast. As a side note, when I was doing the reading, I couldn't figure out how they knew that this thing was 100 or 120 miles out, because radar technology at that time had a range of 22 miles.
Yeah.
Could it have been like a warship?
It could be. There is such a thing as radar picket ships. And so,
Oh, were there?
yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, there are. So it could have been a warship.
I
possibly.
presumed that it was ground-based radar. That's why I wasn't sure, but that would explain it.
If
Yeah.
they were expecting something from Japan, they likely would have had a lot of...
Obviously, yeah. The more notice, the better. So having a line of ships out there offshore probably would be a good idea.
Okay, so that explains that piece. So it's about 120 miles out. They pick up an object or objects. The reports are unclear. At 2:20 a.m., the city of Los Angeles was pushed into another blackout because these objects, or single object, again, I don't know which it is, had made their way to the coast, and they figured that it was over the city or approaching the city, so let's black it out so they don't know where the city's at, so they can't bomb the city.
Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
That logic is super sound, but okay.
Well, if you think about the technology of that day and age, it's not that advanced, so I'm going to bomb a target that I can see
yeah,
at night.
that's true. Yeah, that's fair.
If it's not lit up, I don't know exactly where it is. So
I don't know where it is.
They'll still drop their bombs, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to hit something.
Well, this is pretty obvious to everybody now, but the residents of Los Angeles are freaking out.
Oh, sure.
Because the city has just been forced into a blackout.
Did they just cut the generators?
They just cut the power.
Wow.
Yeah, there's reports of people who were at diners or at places and all of a sudden, boom, power's gone. They just shut it
I know the
off.
sound effect that goes along with that.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's the doo.
Oh, yeah, it would be. And the light.
Exactly.
That's it.
What's that sound when you lose Pac-Man?
Yeah, that's the one.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Wow, we were really off topic.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right. So, like I said, the people are freaking out. There were reports that varied, and I mean varied all over the map, from 25 planes at 12,000 feet into the air to a balloon with a flare on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, people are kind of, everybody's calling in saying, I saw this, I saw that. They're just hysteria, I guess is the best way to say it.
Which, when you think about it, is kind of silly because Los Angeles is a big place.
Mm-hmm.
And 20 chances of one of those bombs hitting you is about the same chances as you winning the lottery. I don't think you have much to worry about.
I think that people who live in Los Angeles have higher expectations of winning the lottery.
That's a good point.
Possibly.
And they probably think that those planes are coming in precisely for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, hey, I live in Los Angeles.
No offense to our LA listeners.
Oh, yeah. But that reminds me of a joke, but I'll tell you guys later.
Yeah, tell us that later. At 3:30 a.m. on the 25th of February, something is detected, and the anti-aircraft installations that were spread around the city start going off.
What are those?
That is 50 caliber guns that
Just
are
like hidden around the
no,
city?
they were installations.
Oh.
Because the war effort, they were prepared for a coastal attack. So they had, I believe it was 6 different locations around the Los Angeles area. They had these 50 caliber guns, and these guns are shooting 12.8 pound rounds. That's what they shoot into the air.
I think that I don't think they were 50 cals. I mean, because the projectile on a 50 cal weighs a lot less than that. But a lot of anti-aircraft guns are like kind of like cannons, and they shoot these shells that explode in midair.
Right.
They're not just bullets.
They're not bullets. They're frag.
Yeah, they're
fragmenting rounds is what that is. And my dad was in the bomb squad when I was a kid, and so it took me a while as I was reading about this, and people may not understand this, but how an anti-aircraft gun works, especially in those days, is it's not a guided rocket.
It's just like a grenade.
It's a grenade that you pump into the air, and it gets a certain set height, and then it explodes based on its fuse, and it just fragments and just throws all this shrapnel around.
Oh, just on the hope that it'll like tear up as much as it possibly can.
Whatever's in its range of fire,
like a shotgun,
Exactly.
is gonna get blasted. If you've ever watched those old World War II movies, and there's things going off, and there's all this rending metal in the plane of whoever's flying, that's what it is. It's all this fragment material.
I'm learning.
And by the way, of course, there's always the inevitability of gravity. So
Which pulls her back down.
All those metal fragments you're putting into the air, dudes.
Yeah, they come back
down to earth. Yeah.
You know, a funny aside story is, like I said, my dad was in the military, and he dealt with the bomb squad. I remember when I was a teenager, he was on some exercise, and they were using fragmenting rounds. He actually got one stuck in his finger.
What?
Yeah, a round went off, and it was a stray piece, and hit his hand, and I think it's his trigger finger, and he had to go to the hospital and have it pulled out. This day, he's got a pretty hefty scar on that finger.
Did he get a Purple Heart, I hope?
No, because it was a training exercise.
Oh.
But we did call him Frag Finger for a while. But that was just kind of a family joke. But anyway, so they're shooting these rounds into the air. The shooting happens for half an hour.
Just like blindly? Were they just like,
there's searchlights going on. They're trying to focus. They're trying to find whatever enemy craft is in the air, and they're going after it. During this half hour, they shot 1,440 rounds into the air.
What?
That must have been fun.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of rounds.
It was, according to accounts I've read, it was like watching a fireworks show.
Yeah,
just constant bang, 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 just explosions all over in the air.
Well, there's a video, right? And you can kind of see
old film,
that.
yeah.
It's just like old film, and you're like looking, and you're just like it just looks like explosion. You can't hardly see anything. I'm sure we're gonna talk about this with theories and stuff, but it's just like explosions.
Yeah.
Everything is just happening all over the place.
Yeah, the sad thing is that you really don't want to be outside watching it because all that metal's going to rain down. If you're like, you got your neck craned back, and you're looking out there.
And that is one of the things. There was a lot of property damage from all those fragments coming back down to earth. There's pictures of houses with holes in them, cars with holes in them, duds that came down and punched through driveways and streets and stuff.
I understand
it was
that
a lot of damage.
Several people were killed just from metal fragments coming down, too.
No, actually, people didn't die from fragments. The deaths that were reported, from what I can piece together in the less sensationalized versions, is there was at least one, if not two, heart attacks from all of the commotion, and a couple of deaths in traffic accidents. Because what's going on? You're seeing all this